Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.
Yes. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.
This is your brother Nafis Abu Zayd.
This is your brother Isa Abu Isa, and we're here with another episode of The Night Shift. And we came up with this program, like we always say, to defend Islam from cult characteristics, Haddadiyya and Hizbiyya, and uphold the honor of the Muslims. And this is going to be a video clip of Sheikh Muhammad ibn Hadi responding to a question that was asked to him about the Haddadiyun.
يقول السائل ما هي علامات الحداديين الذين ظهروا في الآونة الأخيرة؟
The question was, what are the sifat or the actions of the characteristics of the Haddadiyyin, those who came, who now in the later times are, they showed their heads, or they showed up in the later times.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
الحدادية، هذا السؤال قد جاءنا البارحة وتكلمنا عليه. الحدادية معروفة ونسبتها إلى الحداد.
He said this question about the Haddadiyyin, he said it came to us yesterday, and we spoke on it a little, and we answered this question yesterday. And he said the Haddadiyun, it is a nisbah to or ascribed to Haddad, a man named Haddad.
كثير من إخواننا الحاضرين يعرف مشكلة الحداد ومسألته.
He said most of the people here sitting in front of us here with us right now, they know the problems with this particular man and his issues.
أما الحداديون فمن أشهر سماتهم الغلظة والفظاظة.
He said, as for the Haddadiyyin, these extremists, he said from their most famous of characteristics is that they have harshness and hatred. They have a lot of harshness with them.
الغلظة والفظاظة وهي التي نهى الله عنها وامتن على رسوله صلى الله عليه وسلم بضدها، فقال فبما رحمة من الله لنت لهم ولو كنت فظا غليظ القلب لانفضوا من حولك فاعف عنهم واستغفر لهم وشاورهم في الأمر فإذا عزمت فتوكل على الله إن الله يحب المتوكلين.
And the Shaykh, he goes on and he says that it's an ayat in the Quran where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he mentions this to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam about being harsh and not in the absence of being harsh, where he says, and by the mercy of Allah, this is Surah Ali Imran verse 159, and by the mercy of Allah you dealt with them gently, and had it been severe and harsh hearted they would have broken away from about you. So pass over their faults and ask Allah forgiveness for them and consult them in the affairs. Then when you have taken a decision, put your trust in Allah. Certainly Allah loves those who put their trust in Him. The ayat. Go back to the statements of the Shaykh, inshallah.
الحدادية، هذا السؤال قد جاءنا البارحة وتكلمنا عليه.
Go back a little bit. We're going to let it play out a little bit.
الحدادية معروفة ونسبتها إلى الحداد، وكثير من إخواننا الحاضرين يعرف مشكلة الحداد ومسألته. أما الحداديون فمن أشهر سماتهم الغلظة والفظاظة. الغلظة والفظاظة وهي التي نهى الله عنها وامتن على رسوله صلى الله عليه وسلم بضدها، فقال فبما رحمة من الله لنت لهم ولو كنت فظا غليظ القلب لانفضوا من حولك فاعف عنهم واستغفر لهم وشاورهم في الأمر فإذا عزمت فتوكل على الله إن الله يحب المتوكلين. فإذا أخطأ أخوك خطأ فالواجب عليك أن تكون به رحيما.
So after the ayat, the Shaykh goes in, he says, so from this we know if a mistake appears from your brother, then it's an obligation that you advise him with what? Kindness.
In other words, if your brother fall into a mistake, there's an obligation upon you to be merciful towards him.
فتأخذه بلطف وتبين.
And take him with gentleness and clarify the matter to him.
تبين له بلطف تبين له بعلم بين له بشفقة.
With knowledge and mercy and kindness and softness. This is how you deal with this individual when he's from amongst your brothers.
الود والمحبة وأنك إنما تقول ذلك من باب إيش؟ المحبة له. لا.
He said, and you do this because you love the individual. So when you go to somebody, one of the conditions of advising somebody is that you love him. That the only reason you're advising him is that you love him, that you want good for him, not that you want to see him destroyed.
لا من باب الاستعلاء عليه ولا من باب ولا من باب
He said it's not from the bab of trying to overpower him, overcome him, and conquer him and destroy him.
ولا من باب التعالم ولا من باب التقريع
It's not from the bab of trying to expose him and humiliate him and bring his faults out.
لا وإنما من باب التوجيه ومن باب النصح ومن باب.
He said it's from the bab of directing and guiding and wanting good for the individual and advising him.
نصح ومن باب اللطف ومن باب محبة الخير له ونحو ذلك.
He says, he just repeated himself, he says also it's the bab of loving and wanting good for the individual and wanting to see him have good.
فمن الغلظة هذا. ثانيا.
He said, from ghilza, basically is the opposite of what we just said. From ghilza is you want to see him exposed, you want to see him destroyed. Harshness, when you're harsh to somebody, you want to see them destroyed. That's one of the principles of harshness, that you don't want the person to have any good.
بالغوا في تعظيم الآثار إلى أن تركوا الأخبار.
He said also from the attributes or the characteristics of the Haddadiyun, these extremists, is that they leave alone, that they go galu, or they have extremism in the Athar.
Meaning that they have exaggerations when it comes to the Athar. And bear with us, inshallah ta'ala, we're going to explain what the Athar is. For those who don't know what the Athar are, it definitely have a technical meaning. Inshallah.
الواردة عن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم.
And they
also before he goes on, also he said they exaggerate in the Athar, and at the same time they leave off the Akbar. Now the Akbar, brothers and sisters, meaning the actual narrations of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So you don't find, from the characteristics of the Haddadiyun, is that you don't find them giving preference to the hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. More so, they're giving preference to the statements and actions of the action of the companions, the tabi'een, and that tabi'een or the scholars. You don't find that, meaning in the Athar. That's what he's explaining.
الله عليه وسلم. بالغوا في هذا فوقعوا في هجر وترك الأحاديث الواردة عن سيد الأخيار.
He said, being their extremism caused them to do what? To leave off the statements of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
الصلاة والسلام. فأنت تقول له قال النبي يقول قال فلان.
If you say to him, call Rasulullah, they say call a fulan. If you say to them, the Prophet ﷺ said, they'll say so and so said. They'll bring an Athar, not a statement of the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam.
سبحان الله. قول فلان إنما هو تبع لقول النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم.
He said, because it's strange, he said, subhanallah, glory be to Allah. He said, because the statement of an individual has to follow behind the statement of the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, not the other way around. The statement of a scholar or a companion or a tabi'i has to coincide with a statement of Allah and His Messenger, not the other way around. You don't try to fit Allah and the Messenger's statement or the statement of Allah to fit a statement of a companion or a statement of a tabi'i. It's the other way around. It's the other way around.
الثالث أن الحدادية وهذا من أشهر ما عندهم أنهم لا يعتدون بعالم.
He said also from their characteristics, the third characteristic, that they don't pay attention, they don't follow behind scholars, that they don't stick to or hold on to scholars. And this is, he's going to explain to you what he means by that.
عالم تماما. علماء السنة الألباني عندهم مرجي.
Because you'll find that to them, Sheikh Albani was a murji, right?
الشيخ ابن باز جاهل ما يعرف كتب السنة.
They say that Sheikh bin Baz is ignorant and didn't know the 6 books of hadith.
وشيخ الإسلام خالف الإجماع ونقض خالف الإجماع نقض الإجماع وخالف مذهب.
And they say it's Ibn Taymiyyah, Shaykh al-Islam, that he went against the ijma'. Whoever goes against the ijma' leaves the manhaj of the Salaf. And the point we're bringing home is that you'll find that even today, you'll find people say that Sheikh Fawzan doesn't know manhaj, Sheikh Uthaymeen didn't know manhaj. And this comes from some of these particular brothers who call themselves Salafis today. They'll make statements like that. Well, the Sheikh, that's not the Sheikh's bad.
No.
You know, this is the same thing. This is a characteristic of Haddadiyya.
سلف وهكذا قل من هذه الأمور هذه كلها أنا سمعتها من رؤوسهم.
And the Sheikh basically now he's saying that he heard this his own self from their leaders like Muhammad Haddad and other than them from the different leaders who exist in that group.
ولا من الحداد ولا من هو دون الحداد من رؤوس هؤلاء في ذلك الحين. فالشاهد لا يعترفون بعالم أبدا. شيخهم الحداد ومتكلمه فريد.
So like Haddad and Farid and different names amongst them that they stick to. It
وموزعوه.
goes to show you that from the Haddad, the characteristic they stick to a particular group of names. See how the Sheikh is saying that Haddad and Farid and other people, they only stick to these particular people in their group and they put these scholars out there and this is what they revolve around. This is a characteristic of Haddadiyya.
اللطيف باشمير في الدنيا كلها. هذا هو. ثم من علاماتهم الهجر على.
He said then from the characteristics is boycotting. He's going to explain that.
كل شيء صغيرة وكبيرة.
Meaning they boycott everything, big or small. They don't make a difference. And they don't use the correct protocols either. He's going to explain that.
وكبيرة. من غير ضابط للهجر بضوابط علماء أهل السنة.
He said they do this boycotting without the correct protocols and how the scholars of the Sunnah implemented boycotting and the reasons why they implement it. They go beyond that. They don't stick to those protocols that was laid out in the Sharia. Basically what the Sheikh is saying. He's going to say some more things too.
علماء السنة الهجر عندهم مضبوط.
He said because the early man of the Sunnah, the scholars of the Sunnah, Hajr was something that was
boycotting with them is something that is accepted.
It was accepted. It was known. It was clear. It wasn't ambiguous. They had the proof for it, the evidence for it.
كلمة تقال لا زمام لها ولا خطاب. لا. كلمة لها مدلولها الشرعي ولها أدلتها الشرعية ولها ضوابطها الشرعية.
And he said it had its they had where it comes from in legislation, the proof for it in the legislation, and they had the reasons for it in the legislation. All of that was laid out before they boycotted somebody, and the reason and the benefit of it in the first place. So all of that has to be present before you boycott somebody. And this is why it's only for the ulama to implement these things. Because as young people, we don't know how to do it. As we see chaos comes from when we boycott people.
Also, on top of that, this is one of the points that Amjad the Rafiq, which we will be getting to in a moment, he signed the agreement with this particular Sheikh, Sheikh Muhammad Hadi, who is speaking right now. He signed the agreement not to do hajr, not to do boycotting. So I want you to pay attention to that.
ولها ضوابطها الشرعية. ما هو الهجر وما دليله وما ضوابطه.
He said it's clear what is hajr, what is his proof, right? And how it's done.
معناها مدلولها الشرعي.
And what's his meaning?
ولها دليلها الشرعي.
What's his
ولها
proof?
ضوابطها الشرعية. فهؤلاء لازم.
And what's his protocol in the legislation? It has protocol. Our religion has protocol. So when you boycotting, it has a meaning legislatively, has proof legislatively, and it has protocol. The people, that's why you keep going back to the early man, because the early man know the protocols, they know the proofs for it, they know the reasons behind it, and they know the maslahah and the mafsad of the whole situation. They know the benefit it may bring or the corruption it may bring if the boycott is implemented at this particular time on this particular person.
So just to answer the question, just to mention it, first and foremost, brothers and sisters, the reason why we use the likes of the speech of Sheikh Ubaid and Sheikh Rabi' and Sheikh Muhammad Hadi, the reason why we chose to use these scholars' speech in particularly, and I want you to understand this, It doesn't mean, reason why we use it is because these particular brothers that we want to advise, our brothers in Islam, and like to clear up some misconceptions that we believe or some errors that they might have fallen into, is because they take from these scholars. And that's why we use the statements of these scholars, just to clarify that these scholars, inshallah ta'ala, have mentioned and explained these conditions, or these, you know what I mean, these fundamentals, these principles, and so forth. So it's not to say we have a strong connection with these scholars. It's not to say that we know these scholars personally. That doesn't mean that we can't use their statements or that we don't respect them. This is something that you're going to see later on, that our brother Amjad the Rafiq, this is one of the points that he make against the brothers. And I want to mention something else. You know, I want to mention something else. Brothers and sisters, there are praiseworthy debate, and then there's known as that which is madmoom, a dispraiseworthy type of debate. And a lot of people always keep saying this just back, you know, it's a back and forth. Brothers and sisters, you can learn a lot with a knowledge-based debate that is not about overcoming one another. It's not about getting your point across. It's not about humiliating your opponent. It's not about name calling. It's not about accusing or accusations. It's really about making sure the truth is known and is clear. So when you hear a knowledge-based debate, you can learn something. You can see how an ayat has been applied. You can see how a hadith been applied. You can see what the ulama have said about this issue. Because in a knowledge-based debate, you're going to see a lot of bahth, a lot of researches that's going to be taking place, so people can argue their point. So don't take it like just because it's on a public forum, these brothers, it seems like it's always, you know, it's back and forth. I'm confused. I just accepted Islam. I'm a newcomer to Islam. I don't know what's going on. No, it's not like that. We're not at each other's throats in the sense of the word that we are speaking ill of the brothers, or, you know, name calling.
We haven't done that. We haven't done that.
We haven't done any of that thing. We're just trying to clarify some issues.
But Islam is more beloved to us than anybody's personality.
You are none. So now let's go on to the Athar. Following the Athar, inshallah ta'ala. Part one. This is an article that was composed by our brother Abu Ali of the White Battle. There's a part one and part two. It's gonna be real brief. We're gonna try not to ad lib. We just want to read it so that you can understand what an Athar is and get a basic understanding. Because many of y'all know, many of y'all might already know, we gave a video about a while back on that Athar in and of themselves are not evidence, and this is what our brother MJ the Rafiq chose to respond to. Instead of responding to the actual questions, he responded to this particular video, and we just want to clarify some things that was actually said, inshallah.
Tayyib. And he says, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, praises are all due to Allah, the Most High and the Most Wise. You have to read that. The most correct etiquette for a seeker of knowledge.
The definition. It's right here.
Okay, I see it. I see it. In order to have an accurate understanding of this topic, we need to first concentrate on the meaning of the title, fiqh, of following the Athar. Fiqh in the linguistic meaning refers to comprehension. However, here I am using the technical Islamic term for the word, which is knowledge of the Islamic verdicts related to belief or actions, and then deeds based on them. Next, the word Athar is something that remains. But the technical Islamic expression for the word is anything narrated on the Prophet ﷺ or his companions. May Allah be pleased with them. This is the definition for the majority of the scholars of hadith. As cited by Imam an-Nawawi, rahimahullah, the scholars in Khorasan considered the word Athar to be used only when talking about the narrations of the companions, and the khabar to refer to anything narrated on the Prophet ﷺ.
Okay, so we understand that, though. You're going to read all that. So first let's understand that Athars, again, we can understand what Athars are. Athar can be referring to a hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, or it can refer to the three classes, meaning it can refer to the statement of a Sahaba, action of a Sahaba, or it can refer to the statement of a tabi'een, or it can refer to the statement of atba' tabi'een. Yeah, and that's going to go in the second part when he explain that, clarify, but just know what an Athar is.
The scholars' interaction with the Athar of the Sahaba. This nation divided over the companions, their level. The Rafidah hated and cursed, plus considered all the Prophet's Sahaba disbelievers, except a few. The small number among them that accepted are Salman al-Farsi, Ammar ibn Yasir, and Abi Dahar al-Ghafari. In contrast, the Khawarij considered the Prophet's household, in particular Ali ibn Abi Talib, disbelievers. Ahlul Sunnah are the middle course between these two groups. They hold a high opinion and respect for the companions. They accept the order for the 40 rightly guided Khulafa, Abu Bakr, Umar, Uthman, and Ali, radiallahu anhum. If these 4 imams agreed on an issue of fiqh, but there are other companions who differ with them, then their position would be considered to be the closest to the truth, but not a proof. Placing these 4 Khulafa as a proof is, in this instance, will make them infallible.
Important to understand that.
Without a doubt, when Abu Bakr and Umar both agree on something, it carries a strong weight. As the Prophet ﷺ, he said, if you obey Abu Bakr and Umar, then you will be guided, and follow Abu Bakr and Umar after I die. Nevertheless, both of these noble companions' speech or actions aren't a proof if there is a contradiction from other companions.
No.
Likewise, the speech and action of the Prophet's household isn't counted as evidence. If their speech agrees with the Quran and Sunnah, then it's accepted. Otherwise, it is rejected. Scholars rely on the Athar for issues of fiqh and aqidah. Scholars of fiqh and hadith value the Athar for issues of fiqh and aqidah. When it comes to fiqh, there are some guidelines that scholars hold. For example, if and when a companion said we were ordered, we were prohibited from, we were allowed to, then these words carry the rank of being attributed to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Because if they said that, they had to have gotten that from the, because they were saying this during the time of the Prophet, we were not able to do this, we were prohibited from that, so they would go back to the Prophet ﷺ like that, because if they're saying that during the time of the Messenger of Allah, they're talking about the Prophet ﷺ forbidding them or allowing them to do something. In other words, the Prophet ﷺ is one who commanded his companions during his lifetime. Moreover, if the companion said from the Sunnah is, then it's also connected to the Prophet ﷺ, as they are only referring to his Sunnah. Furthermore, when the Sahaba said, we used to do this or that during the times of the Prophet ﷺ, in that case, this and with all the previous words are proofs and are directly related to the Prophet ﷺ, although he isn't mentioned. The technical Islamic term for these phrases are marfu' hukman, meaning it's raised to the Prophet ﷺ because of how the wording is, the fact that the Sahaba, the statement they made couldn't have came anywhere else except the Prophet ﷺ. Summary: Islam is preserved by Allah through the Quran and the authentic text of the Sunnah and the Athar. The companions of the Prophet ﷺ served Islam with their life. For that reason, loving them is the religion, faith, and piety. But hating them is kufr, hypocrisy, and misguidance. Returning to the Athar of the companions protects our comprehension and helps our intellectual capacity for issues of aqidah, fiqh, and tafsir. Their fatwa contain what they heard from the Prophet ﷺ or from other companions who heard it from the Rasul ﷺ. In consequence, the speech of the companions is proof whenever disagreements from the Quran or Sunnah or other companions is non-existent. Pay attention to that. The companions' proof is only a proof when the Quran, the Sunnah, and other statements of the companions is nothing that contradicts their statement, right? Whenever there is a difference between the companions in issues of fiqh, then it must take the strongest view. This is only acceptable when their speech and action don't oppose the text based on their intellectual deduction, or when their logic goes against the text. They are excused. May Allah be pleased with all of the companions.
So first and foremost, brothers and sisters, we understand a little bit background about the Athars so that we all on point. Athar and Athar is the plural. We're talking about statements and actions of the companions, then those who follow them, and those who follow them. First and foremost. And we understood from this that the companions, Ridwan Allah Ta'ala alayhim, they are our bridge, for lack of better words, to understanding both the Quran and the Sunnah, which are used as source texts for dalil, evidence, okay, to make sure that's understandable. All of this, I believe we clarified in our first video, okay? We're just making sure that you, as the viewers, can see what is an Athar and so forth before we go into our actual article of Amjad the Rafiq.
You want to do the part 2? It's going to talk about the definition. It's going to talk about the status of the text. Not that one. But it's one of them.
So, hold on.
Not this one. Not that one.
Okay, right here.
Tayyib. It says the importance of the tabi'een Athar to understand the Sharia. Okay? The tabi'un met the Prophet's companions and are considered among their students. Without question, the Prophet ﷺ companions are the best generation for the Muslims to learn from. They learned directly from the Prophet ﷺ. The Sahaba understood all the fundamental principles of this deen. Whenever there was a possible misunderstanding or they required extra clarity, they asked the Prophet ﷺ directly or other companions. This makes the tabi'een amongst the most important students and scholars in our religion. Therefore, relying on their verdicts, support the Muslims in their understanding. The verdicts of the Sahaba have more right to be relied on than the verdicts of the tabi'een. And the fatwa of the tabi'een are most superior to those who came after them, and so forth. The closer the time period to the Prophet ﷺ, the closer it is to being correct and more sound. This is based on their era being more virtuous and not directly related to any particular issues. This is similar to how generations of the tabi'een is more superior to the age of that tabi'een.
No.
And not the individuals of that period. This is the correct position, regarding the tabi'een's view being more correct than those who succeeded them. The status of the Athar of the tabi'een. Although the tabi'een are among those most respected in our religion, their speech and actions aren't a proof independently. Like we said before, no one was saying that you don't take from the Athar. Nobody's saying that. But independently, they are not proofs within themselves. Abu Dawood, rahimahullah, said Imam Ahmed ibn Hanbal was asked if a narration is reported from the tabi'een and there isn't anything reported on the Prophet ﷺ about the issue, must we adhere to the narration of that tabi'i? Imam Ahmed said no. Shu'aib ibn al-Hujjah said the speech of the tabi'een and subsidiary issues aren't a proof. Then how can they be a proof for tafsir? In other words, their speech isn't a proof over others who might oppose their opinions. In face of a consensus among themselves, then their speech or actions are a proof. Unlike a difference of opinion between themselves, meaning the Salaf had ijma' on something, that's a proof. But an isolated statement from amongst them is not a proof. Plainly put, if there is an ijma', a gathering among the tabi'een, then it's a proof. And anyone who goes against the consensus of the tabi'een in this, then his speech or action has no status. And a single tabi'i speech isn't a proof.
Tayyib. So now, to give you a little bit example, Sheikh Muhammad al-Hadi, he mentioned one of the first signs of the Haddadiyun is that they exaggerate in terms of using athars, and meaning they exaggerate in giving them precedence over the actual hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. I'm going to show you an example. Here it is, guilty by association. This is a statement from Muhammad ibn Hassan ibn Harun al-Musali, rahimahullah, said, I asked Abu Abdullah Ahmad ibn Hanbal regarding the saying of al-Karabisi, my recitation of the Quran is created. So Abu Abdullah, meaning Ahmad ibn Hanbal, said to me, I warn you from this al-Karabisi. Do not speak to him and do not speak to the one who speaks to him. He repeated this 4 or 5 times, okay? The source for this is Tabaqat al-Hanabila. The translator note, this is by Salafi Events. The translator is Abu Ammar Yasser from Medina in Saudi Arabia. Pay attention. Translator note, this is a valid proof that the concept of ilhaq, guilty by association, is valid and has a strong basis from the Salaf. When you block the innovator, refute him, boycott him, and humiliate him, then his bid'ah, right? And then his bid'ah will die out. Similarly, any Muslim who is aware of the beliefs of Farrakhanism, the Qadianis, the Rafida, and the cooperates, aids, promotes, and then cooperates, aids, and promotes, their leaders should be boycotted. Now, first and foremost, this is an isolated statement from Ahmad ibn Hanbal. That's number one. Number two, who told the brother Abu Ammar from any of the ulama that this is guilty by association based off this one statement here? And this is what we're trying to show you an example. This is all we've been talking about, taking isolated statements of the Salaf.
And what's the background to the Athar?
Exactly. What's the background? Is it anyone who opposes this view? Any of these things got to be taken into consideration.
And on top of that, the Imam Ahmed, the one he was talking about, was a clear innovator that obviously scholars knew his condition. Maybe they put a hukum on him. What's the background to all of that? Because the reality of this man he's talking about, obviously, Imam Ahmed knew him, the other man knew him. He may have been in that area known to be a known innovator amongst Ahlul Sunnah. So how can you now come apply the isolated statement?
My thing is, how can you isolate the statement without checking? This is again. So now let's get to the unscholarly response and tabloid tactics of Amjad the Rafiq. First and foremost, the one thing I want to mention, he have a 22-page article that's directed towards our video, the Athar are not dalil in and of themselves. Okay, I don't want to make this a tick for tat, because this is not. This is not about defending us or defending our honor or trying to overcome our brother. We just want to point out some things that the brother said, that twisting words, some tabloid tactics, some things that we did not say, some things that were not understood from it that he said in his article. The first thing is, many of you might have saw it on Twitter, it's on minhaj.com. It's called the Athar, the Salaf are dalil, meaning they are evidence for the correct understanding of the text in the usul of the aqa'id, meaning belief and creed, and the manahij, the methodology of the religion. Okay? This is what he said. We're not going to read the whole thing, but I want you to pay attention. A refutation of those who undermine the Athar of the Salaf. Those who undermine, keep that in mind. The Athar of the Salaf, in order to distort, keep that, undermine and distort, the book in the Sunnah and promote the methodology of the Ikhwan, such as Shadeed Muhammad and company. Okay? First and foremost, this is a tabloid tactic. This is from propaganda.
Sensationalism.
Why? Sensationalism. Number one, why is it a tabloid tactic? The title. The title is going to draw the reader in to think that these particular persons are what? Distorting. They are undermining. They are belittling. Okay? They are belittling. So right off the bat, and he mentioned they are promoting the Ikhwan. So right off the bat, it gives the reader to think that the people he's talking about, this is their how, this is their condition. Okay? This is their condition.
And this is how they put the hukum of tabi'een on people without saying it themselves also. It's a game they play.
No.
What they do is they use words like ikhwan, and they may not call us that, but they leave the reader up. They leave it up for the reader to now put the hukum on it. So that's why you got general people running around, laymen running around, calling people innovators, because these guys leave it out there in the open like that for the layman to work on his own.
So now, this is what I want to address. In our hour talk that we gave on Athars, is not dalil in and of itself, and we use two sources. We use the kalam of Sheikh Uthaymeen and the kalam of Sheikh Fawzan, right? If you notice in that talk, we have not mentioned not once that the Athars cannot be used to understand the text. We have not mentioned, nor once have we mentioned that the Athars are not used to strengthen the proof. All right? We said independently, by themselves, isolated, versus being together. Then we say what? They are not a proof in and of themselves.
Exactly.
Number two, in our talk, the Athar of the Salaf, you know, Athar is not dalil in and of itself, nor did we ever indicate, and you can listen to the whole hour talk, we never indicate any defense of Shadeed Muhammad. That talk wasn't even about Shadeed Muhammad. And the only thing we want to say about Shadeed Muhammad is that, brother Amjad the Rafiq, we have challenged you and your cohorts in your company to just produce one evidence that brother Shadeed Muhammad is a mubtadi'. That's all we want. We just want the evidence that he's a mubtadi'.
We're not talking about if he made mistakes or something you don't agree with. We're not talking about that. We're talking about, is he a mubtadi'?
That's all we wanted to know. Can you give us the dalil that he's a mubtadi', that he's a deviant, as you're going to say in your article? Okay, now moving on. The next thing is that he goes on in page 2. This is page 1. And page 2, by the way, page 1 don't have no ayat or hadith. It actually has the Athar. Well, it actually has not even an Athar. It has a statement of Imam Azari, of one of the A'imma, but it doesn't have a hadith or an ayat. That's important. Pay attention. Out of 22 pages, it's only going to be mentioned about 2 hadiths and 1 ayat. Okay? 2 hadiths and 1 ayat from Amjad himself, not from the scholars that he quote. Pay attention. He says, then come individuals who undermine the understanding of the Salaf through the deceptive and grammatically incorrect slogan, the Athar of the Salaf aren't dalil in and of itself. They spent over an hour bringing carefully selected speech from Sheikh Fawzan and Sheikh Ibn Uthaymeen, isolated from their other statements on the subject of the necessity of following the Salaf and their Athar, through which they tried to fulfill their objective. Their objective was belittling the Salafi methodology by undermining its sources, which are the statements of the Salaf. Brothers and sisters, I challenge any one of you to go back to that video and tell us where Amjad the Rafiq, you would have been better. It would have been better for you. It would have been more better for you to go and produce one of our statements on that video where we done this, where we said or indicate that we are belittling the fahm, the understanding of the Salaf.
Or the Athar.
Or the Athar itself. I would like to see one thing from the actual clip.
Because when we go, we actually bring video clips of your guys' statements and we read you guys' statement back to you and we bring the proof against the actual statement. Because we're not going to say you just said something. We bring the video clips, we bring what you said, and then we talk about what you said. But you have never done that.
Give me one. I just want one proof. If you would have said if you go to 12:02 of the actual video and you look right there, we got one of the brothers saying here they were belittling the statements or the understanding of the actual Salaf. And if that's not the case and you can't produce any proof, then brother, you have to be careful because this can be considered what we call a lie. Okay? Also calling us deceptive. Please bring a proof that where we was being deceiving in the sense of what we were saying.
Another propaganda or tabloid tactic. Name calling. Name calling.
Also, listen, he doesn't stop. He said this forms part of their overall activities in defending and warding off legitimate criticism from the likes of Shadid Muhammad, who abandons the Athar of the Salaf, and quote from non-Muslim to the end. All right, that's the point. I want you to pay attention to this point. He called it legitimate criticism. So for everyone here, we all know that these brothers, from this statement, they are criticizing the likes of Shadid Muhammad, Sheikh Tahir Wyatt, etc., etc.
Because the criticism is not a ruling. It's
legitimate criticism.
It's not a ruling.
All right?
Think about that.
Just think about it. Let's go to statement 3. That was page number 2. There was no ayats, nor hadith. Let's go to page number 3. On page number 3, brothers and sisters, he has another statement. He said, this is what they mean when they say the Athar of the Salaf are not evidence in and of themselves. This is what they mean. First and foremost, any Muslim knows that the only one who knows what's in our hearts is Allah Jalla wa Ala.
No, exactly.
Allah says in the Quran, Huwa alimun bidhatis sudur. He the one knows what's in the hearts. Wa husila ma fis sudur. It's many ayats where Allah Jalla wa Ala indicates He knows what's in the hearts. In the statement of Umar ibn al-Khattab, anhu, he said when the wahi was being revealed, we judged the people. When the wahi was being revealed, we judged them by wahi, by revelation. Because Allah can send down an ayat and He can reveal to the Prophet ﷺ about the condition of that person. But when the wahi, the revelation stopped, we started judging the people by what? Their zahir, their outward appearance. Why? Because we don't know what's inside their hearts. So when the brothers say, Amjad the Rafiq, this is what they mean, it would have been more better for him to say in an interrogative statement, asking what it is that they mean. What did you mean by this? Not this is what they mean. Because now you're indicating that you have knowledge of the unseen, that which Allah Jalla wa Ala possess. You might want to be careful in that. Okay? Tayyib. Moving on to the second thing that he actually says in page 3. Those who make said, but when you look at the position of the Salafi scholars, he goes on and in the next page he mentioned, and this is page 9. And page 9, the individuals in question are simply reviving many of the doubts that we have known from the Ikhwanis, the Turathis, and their likes, by which they wish to undermine the Salafi methodology through slogans such as we do not make taqleed, we only follow evidence, we are people of verification, and so on. Following a similar track as Al-Ma'rabi, the Ikhwani innovator, who laid down these principles and techniques as a means of undermining Sheikh Rabi'ah's reputations against Ikhwanis, Kutubi, Suroris, Turathis, and others. Brothers and sisters, this is another tabloid tactic. He just used
sensationalism.
Sensationalism by what? Connecting us to these individuals.
Yep.
He connected us. When he say these individuals, he's talking about the people in the video.
Yeah.
That's us two.
Yeah.
That's me and you, right?
The people we never met.
That we never met. But he say we're using their same principles.
Yeah.
Pay attention. He said, from the greatest of their deceptions is their dissimulation in claiming love and attachment to Sheikh Rabi', Sheikh Ubaid, and Sheikh Muhammad ibn Hadi, when in reality, they detest. Now, I'm not the most well-spoken person. I can't speak that good grammatically, but I do understand that the word detest means hate. I do understand that. He said that they detest the fact that these scholars have disparagements against Shadid Muhammad, Tahir Wyatt, and company, when they place little, if any, value in the refutation of these scholars against the heads. I want to say this, brothers and sisters, against the heads of the Mumayyah in our time.
Subhanallah. You know what he just did? Number one, Amjad, are you supposed to put hukms on people?
The rulings.
The rulings on people? Because according to that agreement that you signed, you were told not to do that. But you just did it here.
He said that we detest. He said we hate the refutations of Sheikh Rabi', Sheikh Muhammad Hadi, Sheikh Ubaid. He said we hate it. This is another matter to presume of the unseen, because how would you know what's in our heart? You don't have a statement of ours. You don't have any actions of ours. You don't have nothing written from us that we have ever indicated. This is the same thing that we saw from Musa Richardson and his, what we call a refutation against Muhammad Munir. He said he had layers upon layers of contempt in his heart. This is also, we saw something with Bilal Davis when we saw his doubts surrounding the dawah. He said they really don't have a problem with us. They have a problem with the scholars. This thing of looking in someone's heart. This is the affair of the unseen, which is only for Allah. No. We also saw this with Hamza Abdul Razak, when he said about Muhammad ibn Munir. He said, really, when you talk behind closed doors, you're cowards. This is his words. Because you're cowards, you don't want to mention the scholar that you really want to say. And Amjad the Rafiq, brothers and sisters, is going to mention this same point in this 22 pages that he's going to mention. Then he went on to say that they are, the Tahir Wyatt and Shadid Muhammad are the heads of the Mumayyun.
So you put a ruling on them when you're not supposed to. Now you're saying, first you said you criticize them, now you just said they're deviants. Because before he said, he's criticized.
It's legitimate criticism.
It's really criticism, meaning you're just saying, yo, Akhi, you're not right. Listen, Akhi, that's not correct. This is the correct way. Now you're putting a ruling. Which one is it? Is you criticizing them or you're placing a ruling on them?
Which one are they? Are you giving them legitimate criticism, constructive criticism, or are they deviants?
Which one? Because according to the agreement that you signed, that your John Hancock is on, your Imam Ibn Hadi said you're not supposed to place rulings on people, so turn it back to the scholars. And none of those scholars you named called these brothers deviants.
Okay, now let's move on. Rather, page 10, brothers and sisters. Also, page 9 did not have any ayat or hadith. Page 10, rather, they detest that these refutations are made known and spread by Salafis, because these refutations come in the way of their dawah, their associations, and their loyalties. We hate again the refutations to be spread based off the ijtihad, which, again, brothers and sisters, this is not our statement, this is the statements of scholars. When a person makes a ruling against another person, that ruling is will be what? Ijtihad. Based off of what that scholar have in his possession of that particular person. Okay, so that make that ijtihad not what?
Binding upon me.
It's not binding.
Because other scholars say something other than that.
Again, so that don't mean we detest it, because if that's the case, then Amjad the Rafiq, would it be right for you to say that you detest? Okay, we're not going to say it though, but would it be right for you to say, if we say you detest the actual refutation of Sheikh Wasil al-Abbas and Sheikh Salih Sahimi against Abu Khadija?
And other than them scholars, other than them?
Will we say that because you don't accept their refutations? Will we say that you detest that? You got to be careful.
And there are scholars who actually has criticism against the scholars that you refer back to. Would it be fair to say that those scholars who have criticism of some of the scholars that you just named in here have criticism of those scholars that you yourself detest those refutations because you don't accept them?
Again, however, in order to spread their poison, he's still going in, brothers and sisters. These are not my words. This is brother Amjad the Rafiq. However, to spread their poison, so to spread the statements of Allah, to spread the statements of the Prophet ﷺ, to spread the statements of the companions, to spread the statements of what? Of the scholars, the ulama. This poison, to spread the statements of the scholars is poison? I don't understand that. They deceive their audience by claiming love and attachment for these scholars when they say the beloved scholar. May Allah protect them. We love the sheikh, and so on. This is because they know that as soon as they express discontent with these sheikhs, their game is up, and their attacks against the Salafis of the US and the UK will be exposed for what they are. Attempts to undermine the Salafi methodology that those scholars are upon, and which they defended against the deviants like Salman al-Auda and Nad al-Nurur, Abdul Rahman Abdul Khaliq, al-Ma'ribi al-Halabi, and to the end, right? And their innovations and erroneous principles. So, in other words, Amjad the Rafiq, he's saying that we feign love for the scholars,
again, he knows
especially
our heart.
these particular three scholars.
Again, he knows our heart.
Another
again.
matter of the heart, right?
Another matter of the heart.
And actually, we don't want to come out what we really feel.
Subhanallah.
So, Amjad the Rafiq, how do you know what we feel in our hearts?
How you know that, Sheikh?
You got knowledge of the unseen? How do you know? How do you know that we have hatred towards anything the unseen? All we said that was it, did they call them deviants? Did they call them deviants? Brothers and sisters, he mentioned about Shadid Muhammad's stance on demonstrations. I want to put this out here so everyone know. If you go back on our videos, you will see that our khutbahs, you will see that our classes, that we do not agree with what? Demonstrations.
Demonstrations.
Protesting.
We don't agree.
We never agree with that. Demonstration and protesting. Even if we believe that our brothers have some statements from the ulama, we don't take that position. As our brother so eloquently put it, he said, where do you find in the books of fiqh any bab that deals with protesting?
That says how to protest. So I leave it alone. But even though I know there are some ulama who differ on can that happen in the Western countries, we know there's some statements from ulama. I've seen them for myself. So at the end of the day, if our brother decided to take that position, we don't have to agree with it, but I'm not calling him a deviant for, because now I got to go back and call that same scholar a deviant too. And
this is what amazing. They make ilhaq, as the sheikh said also, they make hijra without dawabit. And that's like Sheikh Khalid Uthman said, they make ilhaq biduni dawabit, without any actual guidelines. They place you and adjoin you with something. Me and Shadid, and we don't agree on demonstrations, but we don't deem that his position on demonstrations take him out of the fold of Islam, let alone the fold of Ahl Sunnah, let alone the fold of Salafiyah.
Because
if so, we're going to need to bring proof.
Because for him being from the Ahl Sunnah, he doesn't believe that it's okay to make khuruj on the Muslim governments and that they can be overthrown. That issue of ijtihad dealing with the Western countries, can you go on strike or can you protest in a Western country, in Philadelphia, in America or Europe? That's some scholars say that you can. Okay, at the end of the day. But the issue is that position that he takes, does that remove him from Salafiyah? And then just because he's our friend, just because he's our brother, just because we have associated with this brother and we love this brother because we do love him, like we love all the Muslims, we do love him, that means that we agree with every position that he takes, that now he agrees with every position that we take?
No.
Subhanallah.
So he continues on page 11. He said these individuals have no connection at all to Sheikh Rabi', Sheikh Ubaid, and Sheikh Muhammad bin Hadi. That's true. We don't have no connections to them other than what the connection is, what we have with scholars. You know what I mean? He have a personal connection with some mashaykh.
No.
Alhamdulillah, I reach out on WhatsApp to some mashaykh.
No.
You know what I mean? We don't have a personal, but does that refute anything? So we can't quote their words. We can't benefit from their from their books and their works and their explanations.
So I only can study from read a book of a scholar that I met.
Unless I have to meet. It's conditioned that I have to meet these scholars in order to quote them. Come on, Amjad Rafiq. All right. So he moves on. He says. He goes on, he said these individuals don't have any connection at all with these scholars. He said, and they will never, ever, ever sit down with these scholars and bring their misconceptions because they know that they will be declared liars by these scholars. So the only thing they have left to fall back upon is conspiracy theories, and that these scholars have been cleverly used and manipulated as means of gaining control over the Dawah in the West. This is what they say. Brothers and sisters, there has been countless scholars speaking about the current fitna that isn't current to me and you. It seems current because you see us on YouTube, you see us on Facebook. Oh, these brothers are causing a problem. No, this stuff been going on for like the past 30 years. not 20 years with our brothers. It's been going on 30 years. And if you look back all of the questions, even go back to the book Rifkan Ahl Sunnah bi Ahl Sunnah. Even go back to the book of Sheikh Abdul Muhsin. Go back to his book. Go back to even Sheikh bin Baz or Sheikh Al-Albani, his book, and dealing with the Mukhalifeen. Go back to Sheikh Uthaymeen and talking about the Salafi set that put themselves. Even during their time, they've been dealing with a youth who have took it upon themselves and to apply tactics which are extreme. Which are extreme.
Well, our characteristics of Haddadi, as we see Hamid bin Hadi clearly put, is characteristics of Haddadiyya.
So this is not our statement. We're not coming up with, you know, yeah, the brothers from Salafi Pub, they're this, they're that. No, we didn't wake up one day saying we hate Salafi Pub. To be honest with you, I don't hate no one from Salafi Publications. But I'm not going to allow Salafi Publications to continue to do that which is incorrect according to the deen and according to the book and the sunnah and according to the understanding of the salaf. We're not going to allow that to happen. That's for anyone. If you see me doing something incorrect, you need to pull me up on it. The same way if you're doing something incorrect, we're going to pull you up on it. That don't mean because we are legitimately criticizing you. That's because we are legitimately criticizing you don't mean we are placing tabdi'een. We are declaring you to be innovators. Don't mean we are placing rulings upon you, or name calling, or character assassination. We ain't doing any of the following. Tayyib. He goes on. He said these individuals, the individuals in question, meaning us two, did not bring the statements of the Sheikh Fawzan that are directly related to the topic of the Athar from the Salaf as it relates to sticking to their minhaj and their madhab. Instead, they went looking for specific texts from the scholars which allowed them to comment and impose their own desires upon those texts through their own commentary. Subhanallah al-Azim. Brothers and sisters, he's going to read from a lecture that was given by Sheikh Salih Fawzan on page 12, the minhaj of the Salaf and the Ummah's need for it. If y'all don't know, y'all can go back to our earlier videos. Did we not do this?
What?
Did we not do this with Muhadarat? Did me and you not translate this Muhadarat?
Yeah, we did.
We did this whole Muhadarat, this whole lecture we did of Sheikh Fawzan. However, I just want to point something out because we don't got time. In this talk that Sheikh Salih Fawzan gave, this Muhadarat, he does not talk about Athar specifically. He talks about understanding the correct Islam in the Kitab and the Sunnah according to the Salaf. And knowing who the Salaf is. And the need for the Ummah to not what? To break away from that. And he talks about many other things as well. However, no one is claiming that you can understand the text without understanding the understanding of the Sahabas.
We're just saying that an isolated statement has to be understood. It can't be used as a proof if there's other Sahaba or other statements contradicting that statement, or there's no gathering of the Salaf upon that particular thing. That statement can't be used as a proof. And if it can't be used as a proof, then you can't use it as a ruling to place on someone. You have to go look at the context. What was going on? Why was it said? And if there's anything that contradicts it from the other Salaf.
Then he goes on page number.
We called him DVD. Skip that part.
Nah. On the other page, on page number 15, he said, yes, do not let the likes of Shadeed Muhammad and company make you desert the Athar of the Salaf. When they say the Athar of the Salaf are not proofing of themselves, what they mean is that you should abandon the Athar of the Salaf and stick only to the book and the Sunnah. He's telling that we need to abandon. Did we ever tell you, brothers and sisters, to give up the understanding of the Salaf? That you can't use Athars? Did he ever tell us that? Did we ever say that? Amjad the Rafiq, can you at least point to us one statement out of all of the videos that we have, and all of our classes are recorded, all our khutbahs are recorded. Show us one time that we ever told the people, do not use Athars. Do abandon the Salaf. Don't underuse the understanding. Like, we got to be careful. Tayyib, he goes on. On page 16, he says, and this is the greatest of what indicates that the true grievance is against the Salafi methodology. They resent it. Again, he's going again. And they resent what is in the Salafi methodology of standing up to those who misguide others away from the truth to their own opinions and desires, like Shadeed Muhammad, who opposed the Salafi methodology and the Salafi scholars. His whole article is between us and Shadeed Muhammad. I don't know what you got against Shadeed Muhammad that you can't be a man enough and just actually contact an actual scholar and contact Shadeed Muhammad and get together and sit in front of that scholar.
Well, the reason they're not going to do that because this has been done before. when they do this, they'll go and they'll say things to the scholar, wrong information, and then sometimes the scholar will never meet the person they talked about, or they'll do stuff like they all get together with Sheikh Rabi'a, like they did with Akul Hadith in Germantown. All went there and they all got together. When they came back, nothing changed. Right. So at the end of the day, they don't listen to the scholars.
Exactly. And listen, he goes on. He said legitimate criticism. That was on page 2, brothers and sisters. Look what he get ready to say about Shadeed Muhammad now. Before it was legitimate criticism. He's going to say this about Shadeed Muhammad, which he have yet to answer the questions. He says on page 16, he said that they want to open the floor for deviants like Shadeed Muhammad. They want to open the floor for deviants like Shadeed Muhammad. Mm-hmm. So here he's calling Shadeed Muhammad a deviant.
And on page 10 he said the aforementioned deviants.
Right? So that shows you what? That he believes that Shadeed Muhammad is a mubtadi'. And if he believes that, all we just ask for is what is the dalil? It's not doubts to ask you for evidence. It's not doubt circulating or confusing the people to want to know what of the usul of the salaf does Shadeed Muhammad go against. It's not doubt to ask you which scholar from the scholars that you even claim to have more connection to them than us, that they know you, to mention what they said. It's amazing because, brothers and sisters, if you was to ask any one of them, what is the kufr of the Christians and the Jews? They give you multiple ayats in hadith without even thinking about it. Mm-hmm. Their kufr is this. لَقَدْ كَفَرُوا الَّذِينَ قَالُوا. Indeed, those who disbelieve will say, إِنَّ اللَّهَ ثَالِثُ ثَلَاثَةٍ. That Allah is one of three. To the end. They give you many ayats. They give you hadiths. But so when you ask them, what is the proof that Shadeed Muhammad, that Muhammad, etc., are deviants? It's like...
It's crickets.
It's crickets. They stutter.
Because if it was clear... Meaning, because if you got it from the scholars you say you follow, right? You got it from them. Scholars are clear in their refutations. I mean, you will have it on hand. The fact that you haven't produced it yet shows that those scholars haven't given it to you.
And the fact that you took your time out to write a 22-page to a video that didn't have nothing to do with the answers that we was asking you. It would have just been easy if you would have stuck to the agreement. What? Look, they took their time out, brothers and sisters. And Amjad, we're going to go over here to your cohorts real quick. They did a 3-day lecture. And anybody who heard those lectures, and I listened to them, anybody who heard those lectures, 98% of the lecture, right, was about either the night shift or the interviewees on the night shift. They didn't change the whole theme of their subjects, and they are mingling to focus on us. I'm saying this to say, people have traveled to come to the lecture. People don't even know what's going on. Some people are not even watching videos. They don't know what's being said or this. And you preoccupied them. Instead of teaching them a knowledge-based seminar, you wanted to go in on certain individuals and certain people. You could have just did all of that with a 10-minute talk about this is the proof that these individuals are deviants. Bottom line. That would have ended.
So the agreement has been dissolved.
It showed that the agreement had been dissolved. The disagreement had been dissolved. That's all you had to show. That would have been easy. Y'all could have went back on with your lecture. But no, instead we got the likes of Amjad the Rafiq, Somali, Hassan Somali himself. We got the likes of individuals who mentioning names. Okay? Like Kashif Khan. They mention names. The only ones who had a little bit of tact, and I'm going to say a little bit because they didn't go so far as you guys to mention names, but they was indirect. And that was the likes of Musa Richardson, and that was Abu Hassan Malik. But everyone else besides and Jamil, and everyone besides Sheikh Hassan al-Banna and Talib Abdullah, you don't hear them really mention too many names of individuals. Mm-hmm. Sheikh Hassan al-Banna didn't mention no names. He kept it clean, and the Sheikh benefited. Alhamdulillah, we benefited from the Sheikh.
That's what happens when a scholar talks.
But this is what we see from them. It's just a bunch of name calling. Amjad the Rafiq. He was asked at the end on the second talk he gave, what was the deviation of Shadeed Muhammad? And you'll be surprised if they cut it off. They didn't let you hear him stutter. He had to say, he stopped like that, and then he said, well, this guy made a statement of kufr. Then he said, you can't take this guy serious. But you just got finished saying, in your talk from Ibn al-Qayyim and from Shaykh al-Islam ibn Taymiyyah, how the Salaf would be not general, they would be specific. They would mention things specific. And when asking you the dalil on the deviation of Shadeed Muhammad, None of them can answer. So I wonder why, okay, why these brothers are going around the bush. All of this different stuff. If you're going to respond at all, then just respond with the answer to the questions.
Exactly.
If you're not going to respond, then don't say nothing. SubhanAllah, I think. He continues. And we get ready to end it up on page, SubhanAllah, page 17, brothers and sisters. He said here, on page, let me see this here. Page 17, actually, page 18. He says here that their attacks against the Salafi in the West and spreading doubts about them comes from this angle. We say proudly that the saying of Al-Azhar is our slogan. And that's what he mentioned earlier. Upon you is the Athars. Okay? And then he moves on. And that is page 19. Okay? He mentioned the speech of both Sheikh Uthaymeen. So he said here, so what is intended on page 20 is when they say the Athar, the Salaf are not a proof in and of themselves, they intend by this to justify the abandonment of the Salafi methodology, in which there are no demonstrations and protests, for example. Okay? They think they are being clever when they seek out specific texts from scholars like Sheikh Fawzan, into which they can inject their own desires effectively. Lying upon the scholars. Now he called us liars, and he said that we lied on Sheikh Fawzan and Sheikh Uthaymeen. Brothers and sisters, I mean, this is clear. You can't see this. We've been insulted throughout the whole article.
The whole article was just not my name calling. It wasn't no
accusations,
no ayats, no hadith, no proof, none of our statements, none of our video clips, none of our statements in black bold to point out what we said. Nothing. It was just a whole slander fest from the opening title to the last page.
The whole time. You would have been better off, MJ the Rafiq, just sticking to the agreement. This is what the agreement said. Your name was on that agreement. You would have been better off. Don't boycott. Don't deal in Jahwatat deal. Don't do, you know what I mean? Don't make hedra. Don't do such and such. Stick to translating. Okay, contact the ulama. That'd be clear.
He also tried to point out that we agree with making khuruj on governments. He tried to like push it that way. Obviously, we don't go back to any of our videos. If anybody know my teacher, we're so far removed from, we don't even talk about the President of America in a negative way in front of, we don't even talk about that, let alone the Muslim authority. This is not from the Usul of Ahlul Sunnah. In fact, the Usul of Ahlul Sunnah is what? That you hear and obey the Muslim authority, even if he's an oppressive wrongdoer. You hear and obey in the ma'ruf, in the good.
So he's going back in it again. Keep presuming to know what's in the heart. So when they say, this is page 21 now, brothers and sisters. He don't stop. So this is what they mean when they say the Athars of the Salaf are not proof in and of themselves. They want to give Ikhwanis like Shadid Muhammad. Okay, Shadid Muhammad is a deviant. He's an Ikhwani. Okay, they just call him all types of names now, right? A room within which to maneuver and spread their Ikhwani methodologies. And this is the true source of their enmity and opposition towards the Salafis in the West. He said that we got enmity and hatred towards the Salafis in the West. Brothers and sisters, just because you might have heard me say a dua that I want the likes of these brothers to be removed from the arena of giving dawah, doesn't mean I hate them. That doesn't mean that. And just because a brother makes a dua for even wanting khair, many times these brothers are prone to make duas, may Allah break his back or guide him. They're quick to say these dua about a lot of people. May Allah break his back or guide him. Or Allah make his back, break his back. They say this a lot. And everyone's saying that, you know, you guys are causing too much trouble. No, when they say that, brothers and sisters, you guys are waking up too many people. You guys are clearing up a lot of confusion. You guys are doing such and such. That's what they mean. You guys are actually what? Like Hamza said, guys only study a couple of months and they shaking the whole town. No, you guys are what? Are stopping the nonsense, allowing people to see that, yo, you brothers been paying double standards from day one. Yep. You brothers been handling and running around saying we go back to the scholars. No, you've been preceding the scholars from day one. Yeah, we are more closer to those scholars than you are, I believe. Not in physical relation, not in actual ittisal via phone, but in actually following what they're saying.
That's right.
We are following the agreement more than you guys. And yet and still you guys are what? Jumping up here, making 22-page articles and not even answering no questions.
You didn't answer none of the questions. You didn't answer about the agreement. You didn't answer about what's the deviation of these brothers. You didn't answer any. Matter of fact, you didn't even answer the Shah Sunnah question right. You didn't even do that right. You didn't do anything. All you did is it was a slander fest. For all you people out there, just think about it. It's calling people Hizbi dogs. May Allah guide them and break their back. Jahil, foolish, evildoers. Is this from the manhaj of the Salaf? Is this how you give dawah? This how you call somebody back to the truth if you think that we're misguided? This is what you do? Because I know when you give dawah to Tamika or this girl on Erie Avenue, on Germantown Avenue, that's a kafir, you ain't calling her a Christian dog. You're not calling her a misguided filth. I'm serious, you're not.
I actually was appalled by Hamza's speech. I don't care what no one say. That was harshness. That was harshness. He was calling people knuckleheads, cowards. I mean, and he did a repeat. He didn't even stop and just say, let me go rewind the tape from my first talk, and maybe I might clean it up a little bit. He came back the second day, brothers and sisters, and did the same exact thing. This is what I'm saying. And no one from amongst them, like they say about us, we sit there on the interview and let Shadid talk bad about them, but no one from amongst the students there stopped him. No one said, you know what, outwardly, no, we ain't gonna talk about them like that. We're not gonna make statements like that. He was calling them, and people were saying that was the hawk.
No, people are laughing in the audience. This goes to show that they've been brought up, that community has been brought up on this type of behavior, because they laughed at it and agreed to it.
Now on page 22 in the end, our brother Amjad the Rafiq, he says at the end of this, he says, so we are Salafis, walhamdulillah. We stick to the Athar, and that is the distinguishing line between us and the Ikhwanis like Shadid Muhammad and his supporters and defenders.
Again, another
the deception
ruling
they are playing right now, the boldness with which they are coming out on the tube and social media, all of this will crumble and fall, inshallah. Its hollowness will become apparent, because it is nothing but beautiful speech without substance, and by which opposition to the Salaf is intended, as indicated in the saying of Imam al-Awza'i, upon you is to follow the Athar of the Salaf. Brothers and sisters, on minhaj.com, you can actually go read it. We just wanted to address some of the issues that the brother mentioned to us in terms of twisting our words, tabloid tactics, using titles, lining us up with individuals, making us take stances that we never took stances, which he did not provide the proof. He didn't provide a statement. He didn't provide an actual video. He didn't provide any words written down, anything that we actually support demonstrations, or the fact that we actually do what? He didn't what? That we actually belittle the statements of the scholars or the athars or the methodology. He didn't provide anything of that. So that was 22 pages.
It was a 22-page deflection tactic. To deflect from all the questions that they haven't answered, to deflect from them being opened up and exposed to the world for their principles that are not protocols from the Sunnah, that are Haddadiyya. We're not calling them Haddadiyun, but are Catholics of Haddadiyya and Hizbiyya. To deflect from that, they do 22 pages of a slander fest.
Now, brothers and sisters, I'm going to end this with this. Amjad the Rafiq, pay attention. These are not my words. I'm going to end it with the words of Sheikh Salih Suhaimi, who you probably at this time, I don't know, but I do know Abu Khadija doesn't take from the scholar. So if you are in agreement with everything that Abu Khadija is upon, then I believe that you might not. You might not, but I'm still going to quote his words here so that we can understand what the scholars are saying. Okay? The Sheikh, he says, inshallah ta'ala, he said that one of the means for this illnesses that we see today, brothers and sisters, this is Sheikh Salih Suhaimi. This is found in his book, which we, inshallah ta'ala, hopefully going to read on the night shift one day. We're going to translate. We're currently translating it, and it has been spread around, alhamdulillah. But this is a beautiful book, and it addresses the current fitna that have been going on, brothers and sisters. The scholars are very well aware of what's going on. So stop thinking that they aren't, and stop saying you brothers need to go sit with the scholars and go back to the kibar and do. Stop saying all that. The scholars are already talking. They're speaking now. Pay attention to their words. He said, "Darabu nusus kitab wa sunnah ba'daha bi ba'd." One of the signs, all right, for khilaf, for the reasons for differing amongst the Salafis. Now, we're not talking about the Salafis and the Khalafis. We're talking about the Salafis. He said, is them taking a text from either the Book of Allah or the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, and they using it against one another. Okay, there's a narration that was reported on behalf of the Prophet ﷺ that he heard outside of his door two companions. One said they was arguing about something. One said a verse and to support his view, and another quoted another verse in the Quran to support his view. And the Prophet ﷺ became angry, and he told them, do not do that. Don't use the text against one another. So here, look what the Shaykh saying. Al darabu aqwal salaf ba'duha bi ba'd. Or they use some of the statements of the Salaf, meaning Athars, okay, against one another. He continues. He says, وَأَدَمُ, and this is important, وَأَدَمُ جَمْعِ الْأَقْوَالِ الَّتِي قَالَهَا السَّلَفِ الْمَسْأَلَةِ الْوَاحِدَةِ. He said, and they do this, pinning them against each other, the statements of the Salaf, without collecting, right, the statements of the Salaf on that one particular issue. Like we saw earlier with the Athar guilty by association, or with the statement of Imam Ahmed, rather. Right? You have to look and see what they made ijma' upon. Not isolated statement. He continues. It's not my words. Look what he said. He said, وَهَذَا جَهْلٌ بِالْمُحْكَمِ وَمُتَشَابِهِ مِنَ الْقُرْآنِ وَالسُّنَّةِ بَلْ وَبِبَعْدِ الْأَقْوَالِ السَّلَفِ. He said, and this has come from ignorance of those verses or hadiths that are clear, or statements that are clear, versus those ones that are not entirely clear. Okay? This is where this come from. He goes on. He said, rather, and they use it with some of the statements of the Salaf. Haythu ya'madu, pay attention, ahaduhum ila naqlin an ba'd as-salaf fi mas'alatin mu'ayyina wa lam yajma' aqwal as-salaf kullihim fi hadhihi al-mas'ala. He said, whereas you will find one of them depending or relying upon some of the statements of a Salaf, right, which they transmit some of the statements of Salaf about a specific issue, and they do not make jam. They do not gather the statements of the Salaf, all of them, pertaining to that issue. For example, he said, the qadata shay'an wa ghabata anka ashya. So you might can mention some things, but what happened after that? You might can mention some things, and then some things can be missing from you. This is why it's important when you talk about a specific issue that you have to make sure you understand that they had ijma' on that situation. You had to investigate what was all of their statements pertaining to that issue. Was it someone from amongst them who differed? Did they all agree on that? It's very important. He says, then he goes on, فَيَنْكُلُ نُكُولًا مِنْ هُنَا وَهُنَاكَ. He says, so then they take the statements of those particular Salaf, and then they take them from here, and they take them from there. So they might go over here, take some statements. They might go over here and take some statements. And then what they do? وَيُتَبِّقُهَا عَلَى عَقِيدٍ.
Subhanallah. That whole...
It's Shaykh Salih Suhaimi.
I'm saying that whole... You look at all their refutations, that's exactly what they're doing.
This is Shaykh Salih Suhaimi is saying. He said, وَيُتَبِّقُهَا عَلَى عَقِيدٍ.
Yep.
He said, and then they apply those statements to their brother. They apply those statements of the Salaf towards their brother.
Without gathering all the statements.
He don't stop there. He said, فَرُبَّمَا بَدَّعَهُ. It is even possible that they even declare their brother to be an innovator. أَوْ فَسَّقَهُ. Or it's even possible that they declare him to be a fasiq. أَوْ أَخْرَجَهُ مِنَ السَّلَفِيَّةِ. Or it's even possible they remove him from Salafiyah altogether. Subhanallah. It is possible that they remove him from Salafiyah altogether. This is Shaykh Salih Suhaimi words. Amjad the Rafiq, pay attention. He goes on. He said, وَهُوَ لَمْ يُضْحِتْ بِمِنْهَجِ السَّلَفِ الْمَسْأَلَةِ. While at the same time, he failed to do what? Gather or encompass the minhaj of the Salaf in that issue. وَلَمْ يَذْكُرْ أَقْوَالِ بَقِيَةِ السَّلَفِ. And he does not mention Barakallahu Feek. And he does not mention, forgive us if we're streaming, but he does not mention the statements of those who oppose, those who have an opposition who differ therein from the rest of the Salaf. Meaning he only present one side from 2 statements or 3 statements. I'm not done. I'm about to be finished. He said, وَهَذَا مِنْهَجْ قَدْ هَذَّرْنَا اللَّهُ سُبْحَانَهُ وَتَعَالَى مِنْهُ كَمَا هَذَّرْنَا مِنْهُ رَسُولُ اللَّهِ صَلَّى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وَسَلَّمَ. He said this methodology of doing that, of taking statements and pitting them against one another and not replying it back to collectively in one issue, he said this is something that Allah and His Messenger warned us of. فَأَهْلُ السُّنَّةِ وَالْجَمَاعَةِ يَنْظُرُونَ إِلَى مَجْمُوعِ أَقْوَالِ السَّلَفِ وَمَجْمُوعِ أَعْمَالِهِمْ. He said the people of the Sunnah and the Jama'ah, what do? They look at the whole statement,
the whole statement, everything.
Body of statements.
Yep.
And the body of the statements of the Salaf, and they looked at the collective statements of their actions. لأن الله لم يجعل اسمه لواحد منهم بعينه ولا لاثنين وإنما جعل اسمه لمجموع أمة. This is very important, brothers and sisters. Listen what the scholar is saying. This is how we understand Athars, Amjad the Rafiq. This is what we meant by Athars are not being proof in and of themselves. You don't gotta interpret our words. You don't gotta presume to know what's in our hearts. We're telling you right now, what Sheikh Salih Suhaimi is saying right here, this is our belief of what Athars and how they are supposed to be applied.
And we made this clear in our video.
Exactly. He goes on, he says, because Allah did not make isma for anyone from amongst them individually, not even for two of them.
SubhanAllah.
What does isma mean, brother? He did not make them what?
Infallible.
Infallible. He did not make any protection. He did not guarantee them sacredness.
Why not?
Meaning that one of them
no revelation
or two
was coming
of
to
them
him.
by themselves is free, that whatever they say and do, you can accept. He did not guarantee that for
and you know why?
The Salaf.
Because nobody after the prophets and messengers, after the Prophet ﷺ, didn't have revelation to correct them.
But he did. Meaning that what? وَإِنَّمَا جَعَلَ إِسْمًا لِمَجْمُوعِ أُمَّةٍ. But rather he placed that isma, that protection, that sacredness, all right, that infallibleness in what? The unified, in all of them collectively, the ijma' of them. You see? That's how he did it, by placing them all collectively together. So by themselves, individually, we can't use one isolated statement or one this. We have to use them together, inshallah ta'ala, as we've seen with the tabi'een, and their athars are used together to be proof and not by themselves.
Exactly.
So then he goes on, he says, and we get ready to finish, he goes on, he says, this is based off the statement of the Prophet ﷺ where he said, Khairul Qarni, the best of my generations is meaning the best of generations is my generations, then those who follow them, then those who follow them, the three virtuous generations. He said, for here, he have made the khairiyya mutlaka fi majmu' ummala fi afradiha. He have made the best, applying the word the best here, applied to these three generations, collectively and not individually.
No.
Collectively.
That's what Sheikh is saying.
That's, this is what Sheikh Salih was saying. This is what our stance is on Athar. He said also, the Prophet ﷺ said, Inna Allah qad ajara ummati min an tajtami ala dalalah. And Allah, indeed Allah has protected my ummah. The Prophet ﷺ didn't say he protected my sahab, my companion, or the tabi'i. No, he said he protected my ummah. It's important to understand. From gathering upon misguidance.
Exactly.
Okay?
And the ummah here is those salaf.
So the Shaykh said, pay attention what he get ready to say now. He said, فَقَدْ يَأْتِ بَعْدَ مُتَعَالِمِينَ. So now here comes someone feigning knowledge. Someone who this is not their field. Someone who don't really understand these particular issues. Someone who writes a 22-page article, and even for ourselves, and not reply back to the people of knowledge. That would have been best for either us and for Amjad the Rafiq to return back to the people of knowledge in order to get the right. This is why we call it unscholarly response.
Because actually, you look at his 22 pages, he didn't really reference any scholars.
Well, he referenced Sheikh Fawzan Kalam, Sheikh Uthaymeen Kalam against demonstrations. He did mention something like that.
But it had nothing to do with what he was talking about. We were talking about using Athar as dalil by themselves. You went on to saying about demonstrations.
No, because he was refuting. It did have something to do with his point against Shadid Muhammad. But moving on, he says, فَيَجِدُ قَوْلًا. He finds a statement. He finds a statement. Meaning, what does he do? Just like the statement of Awazai, alayka bil athar. On Amjad the Rafiq, he placed the statement, and then at the end he placed the statement of Muhammad ibn Sirin, and then he goes back to the statement of Imam al-Awza'i. He finds a statement, and what does he do with that statement? The Shaykh continues. He said, فَيُحَاوِلَ أَنْ يَحْمِلَ النَّاسَ عَلَيْهِ وَيُضَلِّلُ مَنْ خَالَفَهُ وَلَوْ ضَرَبَ بِهِ بَقِيَّةَ أَحْوَالِ السَّلَفِ. So now he tries to do what? He tries to spread this and take, right? He tried to place this upon the people. This particular statement he found from Athar.
As a ruling.
And then he declared people to be misguided, those who are in opposition to him.
Yep.
Those who don't agree with him, he declared them to be misguided. So you're saying
that they take an isolated statement of an Athar and make it binding, the ruling binding on everybody else. This is what they do.
He said even if the rest of the statements of the Salaf go against the statement he found.
Exactly.
Even if it's the case that the rest of the statements of the Salaf go against what? What he found. Subhanallah azim. And then he finished it up, not to be too long. He said, فَإِنَّ إِسْمَ لِلْأَنْبِيَاءِ عَلَيْهِمْ صَلَاةُ وَالسَّلَامُ. He says, so this infallibleness and this protectness and sacredness only can be found with the prophets and the messengers. Allah did not make it for anyone after the messengers عليه الصلاة والسلام. فكون بعض يذهب إلى تقرير قول واحد أو اثنين ويترك بقية أقوال العلماء فهذا ترك للمحكمات واتباع للمشابهات. So he said you will find that some of them, meaning the muta'alimun, you will find some of them doing this. They would transmit or relate one statement or two statements from the actual Salaf, right? And they will leave off the rest of the statements of the scholars. And them doing this is leaving off those things that are entirely clear. And by way of doing this, they are following those things that are not entirely clear, meaning they're ambiguous. So the Shaykh, he said, فَمَنْ احْتَجَّ بِقَوْلِ فِي الْعَقِيدَةِ أَوْ مِنْهَجْ أَوْ تَعَامِلْ أو التعامل مخالف لحد الكتاب والسنة وما أجمع عليه السلف والأمة وأصدر حكما على أحد من إخوانهم بناء على هذا القول فإن قوله مرفوض ومردود فإنه من اتباع متشابه وقد قال الله سبحانه وتعالى. Look at this, brothers and sisters. Again, Amjad the Rafiq, this is not from us. This is Sheikh Salih Suhaimi saying this statement here. Look what he's saying here. He says, so if any one of them was to try to argue on behalf of using a statement in regards to matters of creed, regards to matters of minhaj, regarding the matters of interacting, and is in opposition to the actual opposition to the actual guidance of the book and the sunnah, and that which the actual salaf of the ummah made ijma' consensus upon, وأصدر حكما على واحد من إخوانه بناء على هذا القول, and then it emanates from him by trying to place a ruling on someone from amongst his brothers with this particular athar. فَإِنَّ قَوْلُهُ مَرْفُوضٌ وَمَرْدُودٌ. He said, then rally this hukm of his and this statement of his, right? What is he saying? Is rejected.
Yep. It
is not accepted. That isolated athar that you took and placed it on your brother, we don't accept it.
Nope.
We don't accept it. Why? Because again, you have to go back. This is why this is for the scholars.
You got to go back to the background, to the application of the Athar and how are they used. And you obviously you didn't know that, so it was better for you to stick to the agreement, Amjad. You placed how many rulings did he place inside that 22?
He called the man a deviant. He called the Ikhwani.
Ikhwani. He said the above mentioned deviants, so he called Mufti and Tari them deviants too, because they're the above mentioned deviants. He used it plural. And he said, then how many names did he use?
He used a lot of names.
I mean, deception, deceiver, all of that stuff is rejected.
Liars, yeah. So he goes on, he said, فَأَمَّا الَّذِينَ فِي قُلُوبِهِمْ زَيْغٌ. Allah says in Surah Ali Imran, for those who have in their hearts deviation, فَيَتَّبِعُونَ مَا تَشَابَهَ مِنْهُ ابْتِغَاءَ الْفِتْنَةِ, and they follow and seek therein the unclear verses therein, seeking fitna, وَابْتِغَاءَ تَأْوِيلِ, and they seek to, for their actual explanation or to actually distort them. He said here, in this particular verse, he said that والآيات تنحسب على كل مشابه من النصوص من أقوال السلف وقد صح في الحديث النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم إذا رأيتم الذين يتبعون ما تشابه منه فأولئك الذين سمى الله فاحذروهم. He says, so the verses, they are that which is tanhasab. They are that which is used to govern or to overlook all of the rest of those ones which are entirely clear from the text or from the statements of the Salaf. وَقَدْ صَحَفَ, indeed it has been authentic in the hadith that the Prophet ﷺ, he said, when you see those, the Prophet ﷺ said, when you see those following up those verses that are not entirely clear, then these are the ones whom Allah Jalla wa Ala is talking about. فَاحْذَرُوهُمْ.
And this is an actual characteristic.
So be aware of them.
Of Ahlul Bid'ah.
And that's the end of his words. Brothers and sisters, Amjad Rafiq, we want to advise you and your company, just stop. Just stop. No more writing articles. No more audios. Don't respond to us if you're not going to respond adequately. If it's going to be inadequately, don't respond at all. Because you're not making yourself look good in the eyes of anyone. In the eyes of the people, you're not making yourself look good. If you're going to respond, at least address the questions. Go back to the scholars if you need be. Go back to Sheikh Muhammad ibn Hadi and ask him clearly. Did he call Tahir and the brothers that you're talking about, Shadid and all of them, did he call him a deviant? And if so, can he present his evidence? Because you guys were the ones that went to them in the first place about these individuals. So you guys should be the ones to clarify this issue to us.
Yeah.
And if you're not going to do that, then just stop responding. Because the more you respond the way that you're doing, name calling and character assassination and etc., you're making yourself look bad. And now people are starting to see you that used to take from you, and they're like, oh, that's all these guys got.
It's all you got is name calling.
It's character assassination.
That's it.
You
It's
took your time and all that. It's sensationalism.
Tabloid tactics.
We got to do better than that.
You don't have nothing.
We got to do better than that. And brothers and sisters, again, I hope you learned something, as I learned something, alhamdulillah, from the words of the ulama. And again, we ask you, brothers and sisters, to make dua. You don't have to get on here and have your personal feelings. You don't got to call us Hizbi dogs, etc. You don't have to hate us, okay? We're brothers in Islam, inshallah. You know, alhamdulillah, we're just trying to rectify the affairs so that we can move forward. And I want to say this last but not least to all of the students, including ourselves. Every student of knowledge, especially those in your respective locale, it's important to understand that we cannot build as any community, building at all, takes sincerity. We cannot build collectively if we do not remove this hindrance. If we do not remove this hindrance. This hindrance is our brothers misapplying texts. We need to help them and aid them from stopping the progression of rebuilding and unifying the people. Because many people keep talking about when y'all going to be done, when y'all going to start addressing some community issues, when y'all going to open up a center, when y'all going to do this. That can't happen with bad weeds. That can't happen with bad seeds. That can't happen with a foundation that's not sturdy. It's going to have to happen by removing those who are in the way as roadblocks. So we have to get together collectively, even if that's writing articles, even if that's having websites, even if that's giving lectures, even if that's take y'all to come down to the library. All you brothers and sisters that live in the Philadelphia area, y'all are more than welcome to utilize the library. All of you students of knowledge, I invite you to come down, sit with us in the library, and let's really deal with the issue of addressing our particular brothers and bring them back from what they're upon, and hope that inshallah ta'ala they make tawbah sincerely to Allah, and then we can then collectively move together, not individually, not based off our academics, not based off our reputation, not based off of what we built ourselves, but we can collectively begin to build ourselves and rebuild our community. That's what I wanted to say.
In the library here at 3095 Kingston Avenue, you're more than welcome to come. Like the brother said, we call all the professionals, all the students of knowledge to come down and let's start addressing the problems in our community. Let's be real about it. We're all the brothers, all the men, all the brothers who have businesses, all the brothers who have some wealth, all the brothers who have academics, all the brothers who have secular academics or Islamic academics. Where you at? Come on down. Let's sit down and let's face the problems in our community and start to go forward.
Barakallahu feek. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.